Every time your phone connects to Wi-Fi, every Bluetooth device, every wireless signal you use exists because of a woman Hollywood dismissed as nothing more than a beautiful face. Her name was Hedy Lamarr. They ignored her invention, locked it in a government vault. Today, the entire world runs on it. In 1933, a 19-year-old Austrian actress named Hedwig Kiesler made the most dangerous mistake of her life. She married Friedrich Mandl, the third richest man in Austria, an arms manufacturer, and one of the most controlling men on the continent. Mandl didn't want a wife, he wanted a possession. He locked her inside his castle, confiscated her acting career, and reduced her to one single function: to sit beside him and look beautiful while he conducted business. He thought that was her limitation. It was his fatal error, because Mandl hosted everyone: Nazi commanders, Benito Mussolini. The most powerful fascists in Europe sat at his table and openly discussed their military secrets, the exact technical limitations of their torpedo guidance systems, the ease with which radio frequencies could be jammed. They spoke freely because they looked at a woman beside Mandl and saw furniture. They never noticed she was memorizing everything. In 1937, Hedy had heard enough and seen enough. She disguised herself, slipping away with her jewels hidden on her body, and caught a train out of Austria. She left everything behind, except the weapons and secrets she carried in her mind. In London, she walked into a meeting with Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM. He offered her $125 a week. She turned him down, then booked herself onto his ocean liner to New York and negotiated herself up to $500 a week before they docked. Hollywood gave her a new name, Hedy Lamarr. The studios gave her leading roles. Her face was called the most beautiful in the world, said to have inspired Snow White and Catwoman. The world stared at her reflection and decided it had seen everything there was to see. While the cameras were off, Hedy set up the drafting table in her living room and went to work. In 1940, German U-boats were decimating Allied supply lines in the Atlantic. The Allies were firing back with radio-controlled torpedoes, but the Nazis had discovered a simple, devastating flaw: jam the radio frequency and the torpedo goes blind. Hedy knew exactly how they were doing it. She had heard it at Mandl's dinner table years before. At a Hollywood party, she met George Antheil, an avant-garde composer famous for synchronizing 16-player pianos in perfect unison. Most people saw an eccentric musician. Hedy saw the missing piece of her puzzle. If a player piano could jump from note to note in a pre-programmed sequence, a radio signal could do the same thing, jumping between frequencies so rapidly, so unpredictably, that no enemy interceptor could ever lock on. The signal would be invisible, unjammable. They sat on the floor of her living room with sheet music paper and worked it out together. On August 11, 1942, Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil were granted U.S. patent, a secret communication system. She signed over the rights to the United States government, free of charge, a gift to defeat the Axis. Hedy walked into the offices of National Inventors Council in Washington and presented her invention to a room of military officials. They told her the mechanical components were too heavy for a torpedo. They had stamped it top secret and locked it in an archive. What they handed her instead was a smile and a suggestion: go back to California, use your face, sell the bonds. Hedy Lamarr, the woman who had memorized the Axis war machine and engineered its defeat, traveled city to city and raised over $25 million for the Allied forces by smiling on command. Meanwhile, the clock on her patent was running. In the 1950s, the Navy quietly put her files out of the archive. By 1962, her exact frequency hopping principles were developed on US warships during the Cuban Missile Crisis, 3 years after her patent had expired. She never received a single dollar. The patent that would one day be worth billions had been handed to the United States government for free. Signed over by a woman who simply wanted to help end the war. No royalties, no compensation, and no acknowledgement. Just a quiet signature on a document that the world would spend decades pretending didn't exist. Her patent, owned by the government, never used by the military, quietly expired in 1959. George Antheil, the man who had sat with her on that living room floor, died the very same year. He never knew. The full scale of what she had built wasn't understood until the digital revolution. Millions of people know who invented the light bulb. Millions know who built the telephone. But almost nobody knows the woman whose idea now connects nearly every person on Earth. In 1997, the Electronic Frontier Foundation finally gave her a Pioneer Award. She was in her 80s. "It's about time," she said. She died 3 years later, in January, year 2000. The world had spent decades staring at her face. It had used her mind to build the modern world. By the time the world finally understood what she had built, she had almost no time left to see it. The world admired her beauty. It buried her invention. Then it built the modern world with it. Hedy Lamarr never received the recognition or the fortune she deserved. Every wireless signal around you is a reminder that history can ignore genius, but it can never erase it.